it looks like we may be live.
Yes.
See, it looks like we're live on your channel as well as our channel. Kevin joined. I can add Kevin in
Yeah,
here.
let's do it. We can. He
Let's.
can maybe if he pops in for a little bit.
How you doing, Kevin?
Hey, good. How are you doing?
Good, good. It's good to see you. So,
Yeah.
really, what we'll be doing today is we'll wait a couple of seconds before everybody joins, but we'll be going through pulling data and land insights, how to reduce marketing costs by maybe more than 50% of what you would have been doing previously. So, super exciting stuff. I think the land flipping game is evolving right in front of our eyes,
Yeah.
especially with tools like Pebble, tools like Land Insights. I mean, there's the old way of doing this, right? I mean, I remember starting on a spreadsheet, trying to think that that was enough, and then eventually realizing, okay, the business cannot be founded on a spreadsheet. We need tools and platforms that are going to lift us up and make sure that we're ready to eventually scale, or at least just stick our roots deep into the ground and do what we're doing over and over and over again consistently. And it might seem like that's an easy thing, but not without tools like Pebble and Land Insights.
Yeah.
So yeah. Now, as people kind of join in, one thing that I want to touch on is specifically the ease of these platforms, not just the fact that they streamline, but the simplicity that they bring to the process. I think when I started using Land Insights, I was pulling data on data tree, and love data tree in terms of the quality of data, but in terms of land investing, the experience was if I wanted to scrub anything out, I would be going around on a map for I don't know how long, hours at a time, trying to just scrub myself before realizing, okay, maybe I need to delegate this out. So that was kind of my experience for a long time, and I think even sometimes I got kicked out. I got booted from my account, only to come back in and then not have anything scrubbed anymore. So we definitely had quite the experience before, when the scrubbing was maybe trying to pay someone to manually scrub, or even pay a service to scrub. I looked a couple days ago, and I was shocked to find that I think it was propertyaccess.io, like they're just not operable anymore. And maybe it was AI that did them in. I'm not sure. Maybe it was other ventures. Could be anything. But it just puts things in perspective. There is definitely a new way to do this. So we're gonna go through that today. I'm really excited to go through that.
Yeah. No, I'm excited as well.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to share my screen here.
Yep.
We'll talk about how Land Insights and Pebble kind of commingle in our process. I use Pebble in the flip business, and it's going to just change the way that you interact with your leads. It's completely changed everything. And I don't remember way back when I was using Pebble to start, that I was using it for the call functionality. But this time, like now that I use it, I feel like I'm not calling through anything else. I know some people use OpenPhone. I know some people use some other tools, but I just find it so simple to just call them back to back to back and then move between people in Pebble. So very efficient, very efficient.
Yeah.
Let me go ahead and share my screen here, and we will get started. Kay's in the chat. Love it. Love to see it. All right. So if y'all can see my screen, I'm looking at the market research map. Perfect. So what we're going to be talking about today, it'll come back and it'll play on the market research tool and what we did last week. Last week, if you weren't here, or just to recap, really what we talked about was finding these honey holes, these markets that other investors are just not able to find. It's not that they're missing them. It's just that they can't even pinpoint. They don't even have the tool set that you do. Having a tool like Land Insights to pinpoint these markets and move that over to a CRM like Pebble, so that you can follow up, you can tackle these leads in different aspects, and just find yourself dealing with higher quality leads over time when you're building your business off of high quality data. So we'll touch on that market selection briefly today, but really what I want to get into is the data platform. So we're going to hop over to the data platform, and we're going to just talk about some data data polling, how we can make this as effective as possible, how we can use the Land Insights cheat code to lower our marketing costs while increasing our deal flow, our pipeline profit, and just making sure that we're really only talking to sellers that we want to talk to. That was one of the biggest struggles I had when I started, was always just talking with sellers that had landlocked property or completely in wetlands, and I would try and force the deal to make sense. You don't need to do that. You just don't need to do that, not in this day and age. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle some things off here, and we'll come back to this in a bit. But starting out with a data platform, really gorgeous. We want this to always resemble something that a land investor is going to prefer, right? So unlike data tree, we might have only the ability to filter for things or search for things that matter to you as a land investor. And that's what we'll talk about first. So the idea behind this is, everyone on the Land Insights team has land invested. We're all running our own land investing businesses. What is the most effective way to build a data platform for our businesses that we see we're using every single day? And of course, we're going to use user feedback as well. But we've come up with everything here, all of these different sections for our main filtering and searching options. There's more in the works, of course, there always is, but we've come to all of these different things based on the different niches we've come in contact with and different users are currently using. Right? We don't want anyone to feel left out, but we also don't want to create this scenario, unfortunately, like in data tree, where you have 10, 12, 15, maybe more of these fields that are just never touched. They're always empty. You don't even know what they're about. It's more so in reference to SFRs or single family residential. So it doesn't apply to us. So the beauty of Land Insights is we've modeled this after what you need to do in order to pull your data for land investing. That being said, one of the coolest things you can do is just hop right into the data platform and start zooming in. You can start looking at all the parcels here on the map in your desired market. I believe today we're looking in Florida. So I plucked out Gilchrist County, I think it was. And so one of the things you could do to get started is just putting that county right there into the county's dropdown. Now, the cool thing about this is we've got a lot of different ways that you can filter. So the issue that you start to have is, how should I filter? How much should I filter? And when do I filter? I think it comes down to the exact market that you're in and the due diligence you've done on the front end of that market. So just keep that in mind when we're looking at the parcel information. Of course, we'll want to base that on our market selection, like I spoke about just a second ago, and we'll go back to that here in a second. But the other aspects here, zoning, land use, that might only come up if you're doing a very specific strategy. Now, for those who are just flipping land, it may still be something you use if you've become accustomed to it or you found success using specific zoning types, but not everybody will. And I want to make that clear. I personally don't use every single filter option, but I do know folks who will only target, for example, mobile home lots or lots zoned for mobile homes. The reason being is maybe that land, especially in Florida, probably is more valuable. So it's more valuable to target just those lots and create value add opportunities, or just force that appreciation by maybe taking off an old mobile home or maybe fixing it up, splitting it out, and bringing to market 2 mobile homes, whatever it might be. The same is true for land use, right? We might be using this for zoning, right? Or if we want to do industrial and we want to rezone that, there are some folks who actually just target properties that they intend to rezone, which is a really interesting strategy as well. So I'm not here to talk about all the different strategies, but I want you to know you don't have to feel stuck into using every single option here. It's not meant to feel like you've got information overload or you're not sure what the exact thing is. It's going to change over time. It just is. And it's changed for me. Knowing what to target for the owner, for example, this is a great example. I used to only target out of state and out of county. When Land Insights first released the data platform, we actually had an out of zip option. I've never seen that in any other platform, and it still is very beautiful. Now, as you scale your land business, doing this is going to severely limit the amount of people you can reach out to and you can market to. So I would just keep that in mind. You don't want to unnecessarily limit yourself. And there are going to be other ways that we can focus on more motivated sellers. And so we'll talk about that here in a second. But the ownership filtering and sorting, still something I use on every single export. You will not find an export that I do not try and exclude some word from, whether it's oil, gas, Jesse Kwong. I want to make sure I don't reach out to Jesse for any property he owns, right? I'm more than certain I'm going to be offering a little bit too little. So, these are the things that you want to enter in here and scrub out before you ever have to pull the data. You don't want to have to pull the data, even though it's competitively priced. That's fantastic, but why pay for it if you don't have to? So keep that in mind. Now, ownership length, tax delinquency, interfamily transfers, like all of this is super lucrative, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit. Now, just hopping down to the next area, we have some folks who are actually targeting assessor information. So how does market value from the county compare to the assessed value? That's actually a huge delta at times that can show you once you're comparing to what's actually selling on and off market, where does the data that we're actually marketing to stand? Are these owners going to be looking for over market value because they see what's happening in the market, or are they going to feel as though their property is probably not that high in market value? It's going to give you this opportunity to come in and offer them something that they do feel is reasonable and fair, and you both walk away happy. So there's a lot happening here. Obviously, all of these are very nuanced. So you'll want to come through the platform and actually hover over these informational bubbles. We give you all the information you need to kind of make value of this, and that would come out inside of your export as well, so you know exactly what you're targeting. One of the cool things that I like is, up here under the owner section, we talked about owner is tax delinquent, but that's a current status. One thing that we added was the owner hasn't paid taxes for at least a certain amount of time, which is also a different value, right? If we know that they've been tax delinquent for a certain period of time, they might be even more motivated to sell, which is really interesting. And you'll notice that those figures bring back different results in any given market in the US. Now, sale info, honestly, it's along the same lines. You can filter by date, you can filter by price, and I think that this is obviously super valuable in places where it's very accurate at the county level, and people know that nobody's going to sell for a 50% markdown, whatever it might be, especially if it's within the past 5 years, let's say. And you can also choose the transaction deed type. Very useful for some folks I know who are targeting like a distressed title, people who are trying to fix clouded titles, something I've heard Clint Turner doing, Logan Fulmer doing, Ajay Sharma doing. Like, these are opportunities where you're able to kind of find opportunities others don't want to look for. Admittedly, I don't want to deal with anything with a clouded title or an issue with title. So keep that in mind. Now, open lien information, it all goes along the same thread. And this might come down to what your exit is and how you can structure your deals, because those who are more familiar with creative financing or comfortable with creative financing might be more accustomed to doing this. But it's not necessary. It's absolutely not necessary to pull out data day one if you're just trying to pull data to start marketing for flips. So just keep that in mind. There's a lot of opportunity here, but overall, if this is taking you more than 15, 20 minutes at a time, you're starting to overthink, in my opinion. And I'll show you why here in a second when we go through a test run. Now, as we start getting down this list, structure, scrubbing, skip tracing, this is where it starts to get really exciting. I love this section of the data platform, which we'll talk about the scrubbing and skip tracing here in a second. But the structure area, this is something that's plagued my land business for a long time, which is you're marketing to all of these properties that look like they're vacant, but then they have, or at least from the county level they do, but then they have all of these structures or structures that have been built since a certain point in time, and now when the lead comes in, they're just saying, hey, my land's not vacant, I have a house, stop contacting me. And it's just a ton of marketing that's being wasted. So one of the things that I really advocate for is using our vacant land only AI filter. This thing is an absolute game changer. So if we go to Gilchrist County, and we'll talk a little bit about this here in a second in terms of what we see on the map. But if we just go to Gilchrist County, you'll see everything highlighted in purple here based on what it's selecting, just anything over 0 acres. But if we come down here and we actually toggle on the vacant land only, you'll start to see everything with a structure just get filtered off. And if you don't believe us, you can toggle on our building layer, and this will immediately start to show you all of those areas with those buildings. So anything with a building is all of a sudden just taken off. And the reason why we love this is because it's actually working off of 2 criteria. So the beauty of this filter is that we have both AI and then we have county data. And AI is not perfect, and I'll tell you right now, county data is not perfect. So the beauty of this filter is it's looking at both data sets in order to determine, is there a structure on that property? AI doesn't see this structure here. Why? Maybe for multiple reasons, or maybe it was not captured for a certain square footage and it was lost, but it got caught when it went to the county level, because we're looking at anything from the county data that's over 700 square feet, and then anything that our AI picks up. I personally may have not caught this structure here, but fortunately our platform did. So that's the beauty of this layer. Everything that's going to be toggled on should truly have no issues in terms of structures. You'll find that there are some structures that pop on. If there are, they should generally be 700 square foot or less, and that's just the rule around maybe there being a barn on the property or a shed that we can work. I have.
Oh, Ari, it sounds like we're losing you there.
Actually, funny enough, I had a call come in from what CRM other than Pebble. So I guess when your leads call you on your CRM, you lose audio. Noted for anyone else doing a YouTube live. So I exited out of Pebble for now, but I'll log back in a second. So really what I was just speaking to is the 700 square foot rule is kind of just like speaking to any sheds, any small structures. It could be a pole barn potentially, but generally, we don't consider those buildings, even if it may be a structure. It's really supposed to get anything from a barn and under. So, you might be okay with a barn on your property. That's the idea here. Okay. Thanks for bearing with me during that lead calling in. My soul cried a little when I couldn't answer. Awesome. So the scrubbing and the skip tracing, I do want to get to this, but I want to kind of work my way up to it. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is last week when we met, we were actually speaking about just zooming in to where the demand was, and what that entailed was actually looking at zip codes, even looking at the acreage bands, and just understanding what is working in the market that I already determined I like. So when I was looking at Gilchrist County in Florida, and I go down to the zip code level, let's just say I already determined I liked it. If I went down to the zip code level and I looked at the sold quantity, first and foremost, I only see 2 zip codes here. And I happen to know that there may be other counties zip codes that come into this county. So there may be data that's just not showing because there's no data in this range, or it may not be active. So I tend to still look for what works in that county. I happen to have already looked at Gilchrist County, so I kind of know what to look for here. I couldn't find anything really above 20 acres. Even the 10 to 20 acres was sparse, but you'll start to see once you get to 20 acres and up in this market, you start looking at really small numbers. So I'm not really interested in going out there and trying to do a subdivide in Gilchrist County myself. So that's just something that you would consider, is when you're in the data platform, you want to, without spending as much time as possible, zoom into the places you already know you want to target and for the data you want to target. So if I know that I want to do anything from, let's say, 0.5 to 20 acres, immediately you can do that. You can come in here and say, well, I only know of 2 zip codes that are really working. And they could be those here. So let me go ahead and copy that, paste that. I think I have a space here. I'll click enter afterwards. Oops. And those are the zip codes that we'll pull data from. You'll notice there are gaps in the data platform because we're all of a sudden not pulling data from these areas that weren't performing. We already vetted that they're not performing. So why do we want to market there when, if we do get any leads, we're not going to have any comps? And so it's going to be very much in the air when you start getting leads in these areas that are not performing. Now I'll show you exactly how to look at the demand here in a second, but this is all about understanding how do I do due diligence on the front end of the county or the market as much as possible. So yes, you can do your market selection like we talked last week. That is going to be a huge leg up, especially when it comes to disposition. But when we start getting leads, we want to make sure we have comps. We want to make sure that our properties aren't fully landlocked. They're accessible and they would do well on the market. So this is our opportunity to kind of hone our data set as much as possible. The way we can actually do this is using the Land Insights data layers. So if you open up the data layers, you'll see these here: basic layers, research layers, and then our proprietary layers. I already showed you our building layer. We've got a couple others that I want to show you as well. But initially, those three kind of, I'll call them our most common issues with the properties: wetlands, flood zone, and landlocked. So let's just toggle those on for wetlands and flood zone, and we'll look at landlocked here in a second. But if we toggle on wetlands, flood zone, you can start to immediately see how much of this data set will become affected. Now, obviously, we're missing this data set. It looks like a lot of wilderness, but you'll still see properties that have that amount of wetlands on the properties, especially ones that we think we may target. So we want to use our platform to correct for that. That's how we can understand, should I in the first place scrub for wetlands or flood zone? Because there are certain markets where it's you'll notice it's very veiny. I don't think there's a better way of explaining that. But if we go to, let's just say, somewhere in Virginia or North Carolina, you'll just start to see, because of the hills and the valleys, and the mountains and the valleys, you start to see these veins or these rivers or creeks. You don't tend to see pooled up water. And because of that, you might not need to be scrubbing for wetlands in these areas. But when you get to places like Florida, it's going to be a lot more prevalent and necessary, because these places are just absolutely covered in water. And that's going to hurt your data set unless you know you can work with that scenario. The same's true in, I've seen Minnesota, Wisconsin, you've got Michigan, plenty of places up north. So just keep that in mind. You want to use this for due diligence on the front end so that you're not getting leads that you don't like on the back end. And the truth is, for landlocked, what will happen is our scrubbing tool is actually going to begin scrubbing this entire data set after we export this list. But I want to show you one other thing before we get to that, and that is filtering by demand. So right now, if I were to toggle on my MLS comps layer, another one of our proprietary layers here, it's actually going to start showing you all the comps in the US. So this works extremely fast. If we wanted to look at Gilchrist, we have a couple options. We can actually choose the acreage band that we want to see comps for, or we can look a certain amount of uh, years back, which is absolutely amazing. This was just added so that people can start making decisions in less active markets, right, and start expanding their market selection. So this is really cool because now we can start looking at areas of demand and determining how we want to target this data set, or if we want to target a certain part of the data set. If we find in Florida is just busy all the time, but if we decide that a certain part of this data set just doesn't have a lot going on, then we want to reevaluate our choice in marketing in that area. Now, this is a exaggerated example, but generally, if I see a large portion of a zip code or a county that has no activity whatsoever, I'm a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more weary. And because of that, I might exclude that section of my market. So in order to do that, instead of doing this search by, I'm going to untoggle this so it's a little less busy, but instead of doing this search by county and by zip code, I can actually leverage our county layer and our zip code layer, and you'll start to see all of those overlaid. So at this point, I can easily polygon around these zip codes. And I'm a little bit meticulous about it, but today what I'll do is I'll just be a little bit sloppier just for the sake of the call, and I will come in here and just take these markets. And I mean, either way, it's going to take you less than 5 minutes to get this market or this zip code or county down. And when you're doing this, you can actually also use zip codes alongside the polygon. So if you wanted to come in here and include the specific zip code only, even if you polygoned it, it will look for only things in that zip code. But the benefit of using our polygon tool for this purpose is now what you can do is come in here and actually click the polygon and create exclusion zones. So if you found that when looking at the MLS layer, there are certain aspects of this area that you know aren't performing, or you've been in this market before, you want to pull new data, and you already know that a certain aspect of the county is not good down there. Maybe there's bad water, maybe nothing will perk, whatever it might be. You can easily click on that polygon, create an exclusion zone with these scissors here, and you're quite literally cutting it out of your data set. So now nothing will be targeted within that area. And this is the fastest way to just target the most high quality data as possible. That's funny. I see like one property out here. And so that'll happen when at the county level, a property is recorded with the zip code that you're targeting. So just keep that in mind. In terms of this list, I can easily do this around this exclusion around bodies of water. I can do this around areas that lack demand. There's a ton of means of incorporating this into your process, but the one piece of advice that I could ever give you that I'd feel the most confident in giving you is create a process around it. If you know that you want to use this and you know that it's going to force you to start looking at the highest quality data possible, always have a process in mind so that you're doing the same thing over and over again rather than not sure or just being indecisive around how you want to target a county or a market. And this has just proven to be the easiest way to create a foundation of high quality data in a land business. So there's a couple other things that I want to touch on. One is this meta analysis that we've done for Sumner's business. Sumner Healy, 7-figure land investor. We wanted to kind of try and figure out what is the criteria that's really driving most of the deals happening in 2025 so far. And there's actually 2 takeaways here that I think a lot of people on this call will really benefit from. I'm gonna leave us on a cliffhanger there. Let me hop over to the chat. Let me see if there's any questions that we can get answered really quick. Land Insights, thank you, Kay. Definitely Land Insights plus Pebble is money bags. Maria, appreciate the love for Land Insights and Pebble. Sabrina, can you select an entire county or zip code and use the polygon filter to exclude a specific area? Okay, so yeah, so we just talked about this, funny enough. So yes, exactly what you're talking about. Adding that zip code overlay and tracing the polygon makes sense. Yeah, I think one thing that a lot of people try to do in other data platforms is you try and get as much as possible. The issue that we found, and I'm not going to name any names in terms of quality, I will say I like data trees quality, but it's not really made for land investing. Some of the other platforms I've used, I'm still getting contacted for lots that I sold in 2023. So, I don't know where they're getting their data, but I can tell you when I look on data tree and when I look on Land Insights, it's not me. So it's a matter of making sure you're doing this in the right platforms. The strategy itself is fantastic. And I could say the same thing about the strategy in terms of, importing data and using another CRM, but it's not as efficient if it's not built for you as a land investor, and you're not going to have the same support or the same understanding when you're working with people who just haven't done this business and don't understand it. So keep that in mind. Choose your tools wisely. If you're going to build a land investing business, you need to have the right tools in place. And honestly, let's be real, Kevin, Jesse, Pebble is extremely easy to delegate. Extremely easy. It's so pretty and intuitive. I like to think that Land Insights is the same. So that being said, this meta-analysis, let's go back to it. So here's the cliffhanger I left on. We found 2 things in Sumner's business that were a consistent in every single deal, and they came down to ownership. There was really 2 specific things that we found were constantly happening, and I don't think the rules broke once. One was ownership length. most people that you'll ever speak to have owned the property for a certain amount of years. Now, if you speak to someone who's owned it for less, this isn't to say you won't get good leads, seemingly good leads, right? Good properties coming in, but the conversations you have are much, much different because they're looking for a very particular exit, right? A potential profit on their side. So just keep that in mind. The benefit of targeting people of a specific ownership length is that one, you're saving on data, but two, you're talking to people who are actually interested in selling, or actually would consider it. Whereas a lot of people that may have purchased in the last couple of years, they're just not serious. No matter how you cut it, even if you offer them more than they paid, they're just usually not going to bite it. And that number that we found was 60 months, 5 years. So if you're targeting data from 5 years and less, if you really need, if you're on a shoestring budget, or if you're using a platform like Land Insights and you want to hone in on the best quality data, consider using ownership length. Yes, you'll miss out on some folks. Maybe another strategy is focusing on people who just inherited the property. So you might want to pull another list for interfamily transfers, and that would capture anyone who maybe recently came into ownership, who might actually want to sell, but otherwise you're sending out a lot of marketing to people who just don't really consider it. They just kind of humor you. Or in my case, you get some leads where they just lie to you, right? Oh yeah, I'll take 100K. And then you call them up, you try and follow up, and they say, hey, no, I was just playing. I'm sorry. I was just lying to you. And that's happened multiple times. So consider that benchmark for your data. The second thing was specifically the age of the owners. So I don't know if anyone here has ever spoken to a 20-year-old land investor. Other than the people like Ryland Loader who are doing this as a land investor themselves. But what I mean is the 20-year-old landowner who owns the property outright and wants to sell it to you for 50%, right? Has that scenario ever happened? It is something that I have yet to see. And honestly, I don't know that I will ever see it. So consider the age of the owner. Now, how can you get this? Actually, in Land Insights, you can scrub and skip trace your data set within the platform. We keep this competitively priced so that it makes sense for you to do it, right? We want this to be streamlined up front so that when you're taking this data and you're putting it into your Pebble CRM, you're moving as fast as possible rather than uploading it to a third party, having to download it, having to look at it, reformat it, then put it into Pebble. Like that is a lot of work. And if anybody here has done that themselves, they know. But delegating it out is kind of like a hack. The issue is then you have your VA who, possibly understands it a little less than you, taking even longer. So keep that in mind. This is meant to streamline your business as much as possible. Now we have standard for 2 cents and premium for 4 cents. When you use premium skip tracing, the age is spat out as well. And the reason why that's beneficial is because we found that every single deal that has been done in that meta-analysis within 2025 has been an owner over the age of 50. That's a huge benchmark for targeting folks. Now, I know a lot of folks in here may not use skip tracing, but consider using it instead of marketing to all those same people, right? That's also an opportunity for you to sit on that skip traced data and use it at another point in time, or even for the leads that come in. At the end of the day, you'll be able to save a lot on your data cost, or on your marketing costs rather, because you're deciding to skip trace it rather than mail it. So consider doing or incorporating both of those benchmarks. It could absolutely change your 2025. That being said, I think the last thing that I wanted to talk about was looking at this data set in our scrubbing tool before we hop over to Pebble. And by just clicking on our menu on the top left of our screen, we'll look at our exports, and we're going to click right into Gilchrist County. This is a data set I just pulled on those 2 zip codes, and you'll notice that it allows us to look at largest to smallest acreage. Actually, we could click on any one of these properties if we wanted to. We could even manually scrub these. So the reason why I think a lot of people love using Land Insights data platform is because they can manually scrub their list with the most ease. I've I've ever seen. Now we've just upgraded this to the data platform. Our users are giving us a ton of feedback on this, and this thing is getting improved every single day. This is exactly why we love our users. They're just absolutely vocal about what helps and what hurts and how we can hone this to be the best for every single land investor's business. But easily, just by using our arrow keys, we're able to just comb through this list. I'm doing it pretty slow, but you can start to imagine how fast this can become, especially when we're delegating this out to our team. So whether you're looking to just confirm that the AI was accurate, whether you're looking to go through everything that was marked as bad, right? And that was basically left as landlocked or flood zone or wetlands, and whether you're looking to find opportunities that others were not willing to look at, you're able to create opportunity and build a list that nobody else is marketing to, right? Where this is creating your own race. This is creating a scenario where your data is uniquely your data. Yes, someone else might still have the same data point, but you know exactly why you have the data you have. And that even goes to the nth degree, might we say, when you start looking at things like bad topography, odd shapes, structures, farmland, subdivide opportunities, entitlements, when this is all becoming more and more subjective. People don't think that subdivides or entitlements are subjective, but when you are looking at through the lens of two different investors, some people are willing to do one thing where another is willing to go the extra mile or not. So this is all going to change person by person. This is how we create a race to create our own race rather than creating a race to the bottom situation where everybody's looking at the same thing. Everybody's feeling like they're touching the same leads, and every owner's gotten 17,000 offers and nobody's going to get anything because of it, right? It's whoever can offer the most, and then whoever's offering the most gets the least amount of profit. So it's the opportunity to create a business that is uniquely your own. And you can do this whether you're subdividing, whether you're flipping, whether you're looking for other opportunities and storing them for later. It's a wonderful experience that we're only continuing to iterate on. So I highly suggest that you hop into the Land Insights data platform and leverage this stuff, whether it's something like this that hey, I can build on that. Despite it having a majority of wetlands or flood zone, I can use it. You're able to start finding opportunities that others just aren't looking at. So keep that in mind. This is one of my favorite things about Land Insights. There's a couple different ways to use it, whether it's on the front end before you market, or like me, I never want it to stop me from marketing. So I love coming back into my old jobs and looking for opportunities at that point, reevaluating. And if we ever got a lead that lines up with the data we've selected, or we ever want to remarket as a different opportunity, we do that. There's a lot of cool ways that you can integrate this into your business. But again, and I'll always come back to this, create an SOP. So if you have an SOP for it, you're just going to notice everything goes so much faster.
Yeah.
So anywho, that is how I would suggest using the data platform, creating SOPs around that. Jesse, do you want to hop into pulling this data set into Pebble?
Yeah. Let's do that. I'm going to share my screen here.
Awesome.
I hope this works. Let me see. Sorry. Okay. Cool. No. Ari, thanks for. Oh, is my screen showing? Yeah.
Not just yet. Not for me, at least.
It says
Oh,
stop.
here we go.
Oh, okay. There we are. Yeah. No. It's you can tell the Land Insights team has really focused and honed in. I remember back in the day when I first started, Kevin, maybe you as well. We were using Agent Pro 247, and then I was using Property Radar and Data Tree and whatnot. And now, with platforms like Land Insights and even like Pebble, like we're really focusing on what do land investors, what do real estate investors really need? And I think that's really important to know about, and especially when you're sort of investing to like your business into that, is the company going to continue to grow with you as the landscape of land continues to grow? You may realize that you've put it so much into your platform, or so much building your SOPs with whatever data list provider you're with, and you realize, wait a minute, everybody's starting to progress differently because now we're using really land specific or real estate investing specific platforms. And this is another thing that we're really honed in and focused with Kevin on the product side here, making sure we are tuning into what land investors are doing and real estate investors are doing. So yeah, I'd love to, Ari, you let me know. We'd love to just bring in the list and talk a little bit about, how do we bring in some of that data into Pebble, and how do we streamline that? Would that make sense right now, Ari?
Yeah, a lot of our users, we have a good subset of our users who've come into Land Insights already using Pebble. I think there's more efficient ways that some folks haven't seen, but also there's a lot of people who have not used Pebble at all.
Yeah.
And maybe there's been a barrier to that, whatever it might be. I would definitely want to show them how easy it is to just import the data.
Sure.
A lot of CRMs make it complex.
Yeah.
Or some folks don't even import their data to their CRM. So you're working without it.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. You spent all this money buying data. I've been pulling it from Land Insights. The historic information that you're doing and you're accumulating should be collected somewhere so you can understand how you are spending your marketing. And this is what really sets Pebble apart from any other system out there. We're really property centric. Everything is against the property record, whether you ended up talking to them or not. When that lead comes in, I should be able to pull that property record and pair it up with that contact and manage that. Whereas, again, a lot of CRMs, you're going to just push in that property data once it comes in, and then you'll manage it. But here's the thing, like when we're dealing with land or real estate, once we acquire that property, we're not done. We're still going to work on that property. And so the contact doesn't matter anymore. It's that property record. And then also, again, you spend all that money with the other property records. You want to understand, okay, should I remarket them? Should I be sending recently I've heard people are now pairing up texting with direct mailing, and they're seeing some really great results. Sending a text, not even about the property itself, but just saying, hey, I'm going to be sending out a piece of mailer. Look out for it. It's about your property. And then pairing that with mailing. You want to be able to track all of that. Otherwise, you are just blindly spending your money on marketing and not even utilizing some of the data that you pulled. So yeah, let me show you a couple things that I typically don't see some people do when it comes to efficiency with Pebble, especially on the campaign side of things on the property. First of all, on the property record, we are the database. We're the, once you pull that data, we become that database for your property records and everything you've done with that property. Okay. Now, typically, we're going to have that GPS coordinates pulled from Land Insights here, but this is a dummy property. I don't have it on this one here, but I am going to pull one list from Land Insights. But when I'm looking at this property, I'm going to zoom out here. A couple things here. Setting up your property fields, really important to do so. You've got a lot of information that you can pull from Land Insights. And so you want to load up as much as that as possible. To do that, we come to any property existing record here. You're going to have some dummy properties when you open up an account. Doesn't matter. You just open it up and you're going to create a new section. And that's fairly easy. Let's just call it owner detail. There's already a section probably called owner detail. And then you can start creating your fields. So field 1. I don't know what you want to put.
Yeah, let's do let's do the comping link and let's do the parcel link, because when that data set gets exported from Land Insights, one of the most beautiful things is that link will just take you right to Land Insights.
Perfect.
Having that in Pebble has been a game changer.
Okay, so you know what? We should actually
comping link's perfect. Yeah, let's go with it.
Okay, let's do that. Comping link. And what was the other one you said?
Parcel link. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
And so one will take you to the data platform. One takes you to our comping tool, which is bananas. We'll showcase that, I believe, on our next webinar in the series.
Sure. Yep. Okay, cool. So let's just call this, I don't know, maybe like property.
Yeah, details.
Details. And you probably have a section on this already. Let's just.
Yeah, I used our due diligence section to put this in there.
Okay.
But yeah, it's totally customizable. That's the beauty of it.
Exactly. So it's here on the bottom. I'm actually going to drag it right to the top here. It's pretty straightforward to reorder stuff. Now it's at the top. Okay. So again, everything lives here. You want those links. You want to be able to click to it, bring you out of Pebble. That's easy to do so. Okay. I'll also mention here that now that we're on here, you can have your attached files, maybe videos, pictures, documents. You can generate documents in here as well. That lives against the property record. We do have a mapping system here, but if you're going to Land Insights, you can look at more here. But we do have some of the rudimentary stuff that you can look at within our platform here as well. Okay, so getting that set up is key. I'll talk about one more thing here. setting up your documents is another area that people love to spend a lot of time here. You can do a lot of things with our documents. Again, this is my staging account, and we've got a lot of dummy information on here, but we've got some templates, things like even pulling the satellite image as well. Really, really powerful stuff. It's one of those things that I think a lot of people don't even realize you can do. There's no extra charge on this, but from the people that I've brought onto the podcast, they tell me how powerful this is. Some people even use our neighbor letter tool.
I was about to say.
Yeah. And they'll even tell people, hey, I just bought a property, just like, not to market their property, but to just tell people in the same subdivision, hey, I want another parcel. I just bought one of one of your neighbors. I'm willing to pay X amount or whatever. And people have been scooping up properties really, really quickly that way. So anyways, we've got a ton. I don't have a lot of templates on my library here, but you can create whatever you'd like. You can go to Canva, create a beautiful design even, and bring it in here. I've got a video showing you how you can even do that. My wife loves using Canva for her own beauty business, but you can certainly use that with Pebble as well. Okay.
Yeah, and Jesse, actually, if I could step in. So one of the things that I didn't touch on today is pulling data and not deduplicating it. I'm pretty sure I didn't for this data. We didn't for this data set. I'm not sure, but one of the coolest things ever is targeting portfolios using Pebble. You can't really do that with other CRMs or other mail houses unless you've pulled the data out specifically, filtered for certain owners who own multiple parcels in a county or in the market, and you don't know if they own multiple, wherever you're looking. So Pebble does a wonderful job of allowing you to target all those people within just one letter rather than bombarding them with 6, which I have done. It doesn't work.
Well, one of the cool things about that is, I'm trying to see if I have a campaign like that, but one of the cool things is, we do group that together. And I always say, like, if you can throw them a higher dollar value on that mailer, like, I don't have one set up here, but if Pebble detected that Orland here owned 3 properties, it'll group that together. And if you're doing something like a blind offer, it'll actually total that offer, and you're more likely to get a call back because you're throwing a higher number than somebody just sending off all these individual mailers and you're spending extra. Like if each parcel was, let's say, 1,800, and there's 3 of them, I don't know whatever 3 times 1,800 is, it will say, I don't know, 5,400. Hey, I'd like to offer you three parcels here for 5,400, APNs 1, 2, and 3. You get a more of a chance to sort of get that conversation going because you may not want to pick up all 3 properties, right? But you're certainly going to increase the chance of converting.
Well, you're providing a service now. It's not just, hey, let me buy, or I'm interested in buying. It's I can liquidate your entire portfolio.
Right.
And I mean, that is lucrative. I had someone come by my house and offered to buy my car for the right price. I would let that thing go. It's 2010. Like, I don't use that thing anymore. So
Right, exactly.
it's just right place, right time.
Well, why don't I do this, Ari? I'll go ahead, Kevin, if I miss anything, and I don't know if you stick around, but if you can, awesome. But we'll give this a campaign name here. Let's just call it Land Insights. And so you've got a couple options here: direct mail or phone. Now, you certainly can mail out of our mail house, outside of our mail house. You are going to gain certain advantages mailing through us. There's no minimums. You're going to be able to do things like satellite images of property. You get all your tracking, maybe with USPS, every individualized mailers. You're going to be able to see updates from USPS. Not only that, but things like even I call it an insurance policy. Like, I had somebody. Anyways, I won't name him, but he came on the podcast and talked about this. He had 8,000 mailers set up with another mail house. He approved of the proof, but he didn't realize 2 weeks later that the pricing column was shifted a little bit, and everything was off. But he couldn't do anything. It was already approved. And so when you're sending through mail through Pebble, if you're doing a daily drip of 50 a day or something like that, at any time you can pause that and make that change. So sometimes just that one save will be totally worth it. But anyways. We'll I've got a list here. I think I have a save.
Gilchrist. And it's funny. Well, since you brought that up, I've done that, and I've unfortunately, it was just on one of those mailers that I was trying to do everything as fast as possible without an SOP. And when you send those out, I think it was like 5,500 mailers I had sent out that the pricing column was just shifted. Someone else was just telling me that the mailer house used the wrong column, so they sent out the market value instead of the offer.
Oh,
And so that's a real issue that happens, and you
yeah.
can't. It's hard to come back from, right? Especially if you like to market.
Yeah.
Especially if someone has two offers from you and one's extremely high.
I get it though. Like you're sort of in this mindset where like, I don't want to think about it. I just want to get it out of the way. You can do that with Pebble. And just, I tell people for the first couple of days, maybe send it like 5 a day, let it do its thing. Now you're more confident. Okay, all is good. I'll crank it up to 100 a day now or something along those lines.
Yeah.
So you have control over that. So I've got Gilchrist here, and I'm going to go ahead and just upload this. And it's pretty straightforward. This is directly from Land Insights. And you can see it's already mapped out some of these fields. These are the required fields for a mailing campaign. We just need the APN, the full name, and the mailing address. And certainly there's a lot more we can bring in. I left some of these blank here. So we have things like our legal description. And once we map it out, actually Pebble will detect it automatically on my account. Again, there's a lot of weird settings on here. But latitude, longitude, these will be automatically detected. And you want to bring that in so we can get the map on there as well. So when we print it, but there's so much. And so like we've got the comping links here. Here it is that we created it, right? And is it just called comping link on there?
It should be, yeah. Comping link and parcel link.
Yep. And the parcel link. And that's great. Now you can use like both Pebble and Land Insights to verify everything as well. The more, the better, right? Yeah. Data is always inconsistent. So the more, the merrier. All right, we've also matched the phone numbers that we got from Land Insights too. I randomly also put property tax. Again, you can bring in as much. And once you set it up once, Pebble will remember that for you, okay? I'm not going to sit here and line up everything.
I'm going to import. That's so valuable, Jesse. I mean, every single time you import, you never have to do this again.
Exactly. Yeah. Huge, huge time saver. And Pebble's basically scanning through this list, looking for errors so that if there's any core missing information, we're going to catch up on this. Now, I don't even know how long this list is. Oh, there it is. Cool. All right. So let's have a look at this. We've got about 10 properties or 10 rows that is missing some information. To be honest, like if I don't have their zip, like I'm just not going to mail it. And it's like, it's nothing compared to the size of this campaign, right? So we're almost 1,200, and that's just 10 properties. You're going to have some errors no matter what. Okay, now you have a chance to review that and fix it if you'd like. I'm not going to bother. I'm one of those lazy people that are not going to bother. I'm just going to move forward here. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and now view the campaign. This is pretty much done. I mean, we brought it in. It should take you less time than I did once you've done it once, okay? I'm going to explain a couple things here about your campaign. You've got the code. This is really important, especially if you're doing mailing. This code is not only assigned to the property, but to the specific mail piece. You've spent money on this campaign. You want to understand the performance of this campaign. A lot of people like to use code that maybe they generated themselves or it's from a different platform or whatever. I mean, it's almost like the APN. I mean, sure, it's a shortened version, but with our code, we're not just identifying the property. We're also identifying the campaign it belonged to. Again, maybe you want to do a texting campaign. Maybe you're going to do a cold calling campaign that you skip traced with Land Insights. Maybe you want to do a mailing campaign. You want to see where that lead came from. So they're going to give you that code. Maybe they're not. Sometimes they are. But especially mailing, you're going to get that code from them. Okay. And we're ready to rock and roll. We've created the property record here. And so I mentioned this earlier. Again, Pebble contains now your property records that you've pulled from Land Insights. You've done all that. You spent all that time researching and fine tuning and excluding areas like Ari was just showing you. Now that lives inside of Pebble. I want to have that source of truth where I can make notes on that. That's why you have your property records inside of Pebble. You want to get that first in. And when I'm activating this, I simply activate the campaign, choose a letter. I don't know, maybe a blind offer letter, something really basic here. I'm going to select my return address. You can have multiple return addresses here. Now, here's something to note. I'm previewing this right now. I see, oh my gosh, there's a second page that's almost blank. Well, every letter is going to be dynamic because we're populating different things on there. Maybe the legal description was really long or whatever it is. I'm going to have to adjust this document to make sure for most of them that they don't get shifted down. But what happens if, if we found somebody owns 10 parcels, it's very likely going to shift it down, right? So keep that in mind. So I would go back and edit this, but if I'm good, I'll just hit, I approve of that. It's going to give you an estimated cost on this entire campaign. This is based off of that first preview there. And I can set the drip, right? So maybe it's 50 a day. I hit save here, and then I go through my payment method here, and then off it goes to get the mailing done there.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I would also say, one of the other things that you didn't mention, I think you probably glossed over it in your head, but was remarketing.
Yeah.
Like we go through, and this is something I talk about in Land Insights, but you go through all this effort to find the market. You spend time doing that. You zoom in to the places you actually want to target. You go to the data platform. You spend all this time honing in on the data, pulling it, and then there's people who don't remarket to it.
Yeah.
You do all this work on the front end, and just because you may have not gotten a lead, you tell yourself that maybe it wasn't the best area to market to when you've already done the due diligence on the front end.
Yeah.
You know that it's good. So now you just need a lead, and that's why even this here in Pebble is powerful. Using a mailer code like that or some sort of a unique identifier to know this is campaign number 2 or 3 or 4, and not sleeping on that data because it's already vetted.
Exactly. And so maybe you want to do, Kevin, instruct me if I'm doing this correctly, because sometimes I forget, but I would go to the properties here, right, and reduce it down to the campaign, maybe one that we have. And then I'll come to make sure that they are not somebody who's already gotten back to me, right? So I would go to the seller deals and then
click exclude all. Yeah.
Yeah. So I exclude all. So now I can create a campaign from this. I'll select all 1,200 of those properties. I'll go ahead and I create a new campaign of anybody who has not gotten back to me. Everybody's gotten back to me. I probably have them on a follow-up sequence now, whether I'm sending a text message, an email message, or even direct mail follow-up as well. I can do that and put them in a drip sequence. For the rest of them, maybe now I want to hit them up with a different mailing campaign.
Yeah, I mean, I love the idea of doing this and doing these campaigns specifically for neighbor letters or cold calling. The fact that you're remarketing, I'm just imagining right now, like, well, why don't I do this whenever I get a deal? Why don't I just immediately remarket again to the same place? Because now I know it. I can get a deal here.
Yes.
So there's a lot of ways to incorporate this, and I think that people don't have processes around this, and because of that, it just never happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, I absolutely love this UI and how you see it up front, because even though, yes, sure, you might look at the property on Land Insights, when you're on a deal board, let's just say seller deals in this case, you can see these properties so clearly, so easily. You know exactly what is popping up. I think in some cases you can even have the map or like a preview of the property show up, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a huge level up too, because I think a lot of us as investors, we kind of stamp the property or the deal in our heads, not by the name, but by the specific property, the shape of it, what it looked like. And so just seeing that up front really fast is a huge level up to a CRM.
Yeah.
So absolutely love that. Let's hop over to the chat, see if we have any questions. I did answer a couple questions in here. Cooper, yes, you absolutely need to add those links into your Pebble. What I do is actually when a lead comes in, I'll go over to the property, and in the property itself, you can click into the property and convert it to a deal, which is extremely beneficial. So you create deal there at the top, and easily by creating that deal, once you know that it's a real lead, you can attach the owners to it and just start all of your communication in Pebble. Which is extremely streamlined. I'm also, just like you were about to do, Jesse, I usually will just click right on that link and open it up. You don't have to right now, but very beneficial for just getting right back into that property, doing due diligence. If you have a comper or if you have an acquisitions person that needs to access that data as fast as possible as they're calling these leads, it's so convenient just to have that right there in front of them. Absolutely love that. One of the other things that I want to talk about before we wrap up today and we talk about what's next is the deal boards themselves. So I think that there's definitely a basic flow of how you can create a deal flow here, or your deal board. I don't think it needs to be complex. And I've learned this lesson, unfortunately, more than once, where you try and create a more complex deal board than it needs to be.
Yeah.
So for everyone watching, just keep that in mind, is sometimes we feel tricked into thinking that you need to have every single stage of that deal. And what you see is literally the larger action steps. That should be what it is. When the deal comes in, is it warm, is it hot, right? What's our initial due diligence? Taking that over to, has the contract been sent? Like these are the main, or the 14-day cadence is a fantastic one. Like these are the main stages that we see our deals go through. And adding more, whether it seems like a good idea at any given time, I've tried it and it just never seems to add clarity. It always ends up creating some sort of confusion or chaos to the business.
That's a great way to put it. And this is sort of, Sumner helped us to lay this out here. So, I would say keep it simple for yourself. A lot of people do ask, how many stages do I need or whatever. So, well, think about your business. What are those major silos of areas that you go through when you're acquiring a property? And start from there. You don't need to make things complicated. And that's one of the big things here. I know Kevin with the product team here really think about is, how do we keep things simple for the user, so you actually end up using it,
Yeah, no, exactly. I love it. Any other questions? Feel free to pop it into the chat before we wrap up for today. Really loved going through this with you all. I hope you got a ton of value. Next week, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about our simple AI strategy using our comping tool to create scary accurate land flipping offers. So this is funny enough, this is something that we kind of found was possible through our AI comping tool. It is bonkers how useful it is, but just wait till you see what we have next. So Diane, don't feel like you're starting over. You've got the foundation, and that's the most important thing to understand, is like a lot of people feel like they're starting over, but you already know everything you need to know. Now it's just plugging everything you know into the right tools and systems, and you can absolutely accomplish big things. Land Insights price the list. So yes, we use Land Insights to price the list. Right now, we don't have our a pricing tool out, but TBD. Keep your eyes out. There are things coming in the future, and we're always iterating on our platform, making it the most efficient means of building a land investing business from the software and the back end side, which is extremely exciting. Kay also says she lives off those mailer codes. Helps so much with tracking KPIs and A/B testing. That's actually a huge thing. Testing different strategies. I'm sure, Kay, you have gotten a lot of deals off of these.
Hey, Kay, good to see you.
Awesome. Well, that being said, that's all our questions, it looks like. We'll wrap up for today. Jesse, Kevin, thank you for hopping on with me today. Next week, again, we're going to be looking at how we use Land Insights comping tool to generate land flipping offers. If you have any questions, just reach out to us here at hello@landinsights.co, or is it hello at? You might want to give that support email at Pebble.
Hello at pebblerei.com. And also, like, we've got a lot of live stuff. So if you head over to our website, pebblerei.com, under resources and then live training. Kevin and I are on every week. We've got a managing leads session. We've got a import properties. If you're getting data from Land Insights, we do that together. And then we got an open office hours on Wednesday. So it's the both of us here.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you again, Jesse, Kevin. I look forward to talking with you both next week.
All right. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.